It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
Coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligera. It's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. I'm talking right now, while you're watching or listening to this show, you can get a copy of this book. And hey, it's a great time because she fits right into the stocking for a stocking stuffer for the holidays. That's right, you can get it right now on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. If you want a signed copy, you better hurry up. If you want it under the tree in time, just drop me an email personally, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. Or just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. Yeah, that's all you got to do. Today's show, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but first and foremost, Canelo Alvarez against Rocky Fielding last night in New York City at Madison Square Garden. Canelo, I guess... for all intent and purposes, let's just say he made history. He picked up his third belt, the super middleweight regular WBA title from Rocky Fielding in a one-sided beatdown of poor old Rocky Fielding, who drops to 27-2 with 15 knockouts. Canelo, on the other hand, improves to 50 wins, 1 loss, and a couple of draws with 34 knockouts. To me, this fight was a shim sham scam. I mean that's all I can say. And the reason why I say that, no disrespect to Rocky Fielding, but I mean, did anyone really think that this was going to be a competitive fight in even a little bit? I mean, I got to admit, I guess I thought that maybe it was going to get a little competitive. Seeing the height difference, I thought maybe Rocky Fielding would try to outbox Canelo. He didn't, and Canelo destroyed his body, dropping him several times before it was waved off in the third round at 2 minutes and 38 seconds to give Canelo the win. A couple of quick thoughts I have on this fight. Number one, numero uno, isn't it funny how, I think Canelo weighed 167 point something pounds at the weigh-in. This is the same guy that avoided Triple G for, 2 years, claiming he's so big. Oh, Triple G's so big. I'm just a junior middleweight, and Canelo Alvarez is a big guy. Whether he eats tainted beef to get that size or whether he's just filling into his body now that he's in his late 20s. Yeah, he's only 28, I believe, either 28 or 29. And, he seems like he's been around for forever. That's what you get when you start your career early. Hey, listen, I give him credit for this, but when you go back to in time to I'm saying time a lot. When you go back in time to an era, I should say, where there's one title for each division. And, oh, by the way, this division didn't even exist back in the day. The super middleweight division didn't hit the scene until the early 80s. But the truth of the matter is how much credit does a fighter of today get? I mean, if you put it in perspective, is it really that hard to obtain a title today? I think the difficulty becomes more, keeping it. That's where I think the challenge is today, whereas years ago, it was the rise to get the opportunity to fight for a title and then, of course, keeping it. But today, titles are handed out like candy on Halloween, and then depending upon the level of opposition that's hand-fed to the fighter will determine if that fighter is a legit champion. Now, in Canelo's case, of course, I don't question his legitimacy as a world champion. He's clearly one of the best, not the best, and I still don't believe that he is I don't think that he is the sport of boxing the way they were trying to bill it. And quite honestly, it was nauseating to listen to the commentating last night with all the accolades for Canelo. I mean, talk about a network that invests almost $350 million in Canelo Alvarez, and then to coax the commentators to build that up. For anyone that's a sports fan that's never heard of Canelo, they certainly think that he's one of the best. But I guess for argument's sake, he is one of the best today. The best? No. Pound for pound number one, like they were suggesting last night? No. He's not pound for pound number one, in my opinion. At least in my opinion, pound for pound number one is a very close tie. I could be okay with either way, but Vasily Lomachenko and Terence Crawford, to me, are the top two pound for pound. I don't have Canelo pound for pound in there. I mean, I have him in the top 10, but he's not number one, in my opinion. The whole card kind of sucked. I mean, I can't sugarcoat it any other way. Tevin Farmer. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Tevin Farmer. All right? I like the fact that this is a guy in the super featherweight, junior, middle, lightweight division, whatever you want to look at, that has seemingly earned his stripes, so to speak. He did not get handed anything. He had a pretty tough road, as a matter of fact, and I just. No disrespect, but his opponent. Every one of these fights were set up to give the champions the win, except for Rocky Fielding. Tevin Farmer went the distance with Francisco Fonseca, who drops to 22-2-1. Farmer improves to 28-4-1. All three judges scored it the same. A one-sided fight, 117-111. All in favor of Tevin Farmer. Now, Saddam Ali, a guy that got destroyed in his last time out, he needed to get a W, and he got it last night. I mean, he fought Mauricio Herrera, who's a tough guy. He's a tough guy. But Saddam Ali fought kind of smart in this fight, in my opinion, because he boxed, and that's what he should do. And he won this fight in unanimous decision, 100-90, 99-91, 98-92, with the way all three judges scored that one. So congratulations to Saddam Ali. I like Saddam Ali, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But in any event, the other fight that was no notable fight, at least for me, on this card was Ryan Garcia, Kingry Garcia, if you will. He improved to 17-0 with 14 knockouts when he stopped Braulio Rodriguez at 1 minute and 14 seconds of the fifth round. And Ron Lipton was the referee in that one. So congratulations to Ryan Garcia. I'm looking to see him step up in the near future. So we'll see what happens there. We're going to have Alex Perpali and Dax Khan join us a little bit later. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about was some of the things going on with end-of-year stuff. And speaking of end-of-year, this will be our last show of 2018 with the way the holiday falls this year. We will be showing some other shows. All of our radio dials will be playing some best-of stuff as well, and some other holiday programming. But we will return I think it's that, January 6th, maybe? It's the first Monday after, first Sunday after the new year. So that's when we'll be coming back. And I want to make an announcement right now. We got some really good news for you guys. I told you that 2019 was going to be another great year for us, the show. And of course, we hope that you guys are supportive. But in addition to announcing a new radio station that we'll be part of, which you're going to have to wait till the first of the year, we also are going to be part of a new television network called Giniko, Giniko USA TV. Now, what this is it's a platform that puts you on all the streaming television apps. So the show will be available on Roku and Fire TV, Google TV, Android TV, etc., etc., etc. And we're really excited about it because what they're doing is they're actually setting up, and get this, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week Billy C. Boxing channel. So we're real excited about that. We've done so many great things in the past, shows not only covering, every topic that was relevant in the sport, but also some specials that we did over the years. And I have almost 15 years worth of shows that will be, sprinkled in there to cover the 24/7. And we will also be adding some other shows. So if you have a show or if you have a channel that you've been toying around with and you want to add it to our network, no problem. Drop me an email and I'll give you the deal. And we can go from there. So just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. We're really excited, and I want to thank Lee Wow Media for hooking that up. My man has done a great job. You got to, if you're looking to get some representation and you got a small show, drop me an email and I'll hook you up with my man Lou. But in any event, some other things, getting back to the fight from last night. The co-main event was supposed to be, I'm pretty sure it was the co-main event, but it was definitely supposed to be on the card. David Lemieux against Tureano Johnson. Now, this was a fight that I was looking forward to. And it was canceled, and the reason is because David Lemieux had to go to the hospital due to dehydration and required intravenous fluids, and bottom line is he was in no condition to fight. Here's the thing. I think this really shows in terms of David Lemieux, I think it really shows beyond any shadow of a doubt that this guy's training technique or methods or heart for training is not that great. I mean, the truth of the matter is he's had trouble making weight. We've seen him come in the ring where he literally had more jiggles on him than a Jigglypuff character, if you know what that is. I had to be taught what that was, but in any event. And, either he's not training properly, he doesn't put his heart into it, but this guy always seems to have trouble making weight. And I don't think there's room for him to go up in weight. His height will be his Achilles heel. So David Lemieux, I don't think he takes this sport seriously. The thing is I met David Lemieux early in his career up in Canada, and he was coddled. He was going to be the big next star. And he became, he hit stardom, no question about it. But, because of some of the real easy fights that he was hand-fed up to his 20th fight or something like that, he started listening to all the ears. His ears started hearing all the whispers in it. You're the best, you're this, you're that. And I see that happen to a lot of young fighters, and it's unfortunate. For David Lemieux, he was a fighter that I liked. So anyway, some other fights I wanted to talk about real quick before we get back into the Canelo fight. Not that there's a whole lot to talk about, but Former WBO heavyweight champ Joseph Parker improved to 25-2 when he scored a third-round knockout over Alexander Flores. Flores drops to 17-2. Also in the co-main event on that card, Junior Fa, in a draw. This was Friday. Also on Friday, WBO super middleweight champ Gilberto Ramirez got what did buzz Ramirez, but at the end of the fight, Ramirez wins. And also at the end of the fight, Zerto Ramirez announced that he's going to move up in weight to the light heavyweight division. So a little news there. Somebody sent me, and I forgot who it was, and I got a bunch of emails I'm going to read a little bit later, but somebody sent me an email, and it had a link to it. It was a story, and it was from, actually it was dated December 7th, and it was from a publication. I don't know if it's just an internet thing or if they go to print or whatever, but it's called The Sport Rag. Normally I don't promote or like to promote anything else, but I want to read this to you because Deontay Wilder, coming off a very controversial win or draw, I should say, where he gets to keep his title over Tyson Fury. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you'll see in a minute, but he's been crying ever since. He hurt his arm, and that's why he's making excuse after excuse after excuse. And, he took what I think was a gift, and I think he's put in a lot of negativity around himself by making up all these excuses. But nonetheless, this article from the Sport Rag says, the title says, Deontay Wilder breaks his arm again in head of a rematch just in case. And, when I read that, I was like, at first I'm saying to myself, huh? And then I realized it's, I'll read it to you. Following the news that World Boxing Council has sanctioned a rematch between Wilder and Tyson Fury after their titanic battle at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, Deontay Wilder has reportedly have immediately broken his arm again, just in case. Shortly after fumbling his way to a questionable draw against Fury in their first fight, the Bronze Bomber took to social media to tell the fans he'd broken his arm 12 weeks before the fight, despite using that right hand to obliterate an unwitting ESPN mascot around 6 weeks before that fight, and posting several training videos thereafter showing off his immense power and apparently sending his trainers to the hospital. The Alabama fighter had this to say: I just want to make sure I have the excuse ready again when Fury gives me another boxing lesson. I'll probably ask Mauricio Suleiman to pay off a couple of judges again, too, and maybe ask the referee who does super fast 10 counts. But I thought I may as well break my arm again, as my fans really bought that BS the last time. Obviously, this is not a quote from Deontay Wilder, but I found it extremely funny because of all the excuses that Deontay came up with. But in any event, Canelo Alvarez beating Rocky Fielding last night, if you're just tuning in. Not much to say. The positive that I really got out of this fight was Canelo working the body. I love fighters that work the body. There's no question about that. I love it. I think that it shows that they know how to break a fighter down, and I just believe that it's something that a lot of fighters today don't do anymore, which I really can't understand, because if you learn how to box after you learn the jab, a body shot should be something that you learn is a vehicle to help you break down a fighter. Canelo definitely worked the body viciously, I might add, and there was a lot of body to hit against Rocky Fielding, and it's something mentioning Deontay Wilder a few minutes ago. It's something that I wonder why more fighters don't do that. With against Deontay Wilder, try to work his body. I know it looks nice and toned and all of that, but in my opinion, it's still vulnerable. I don't care how many ripped muscles you see. when it's that big, that much in terms of distance. And the fact that, if you get inside on Wilder, he seems a little bit susceptible because he smothers himself sometimes with his own, style, I should say. But in any event, this is what I'm talking about. So I just think that more fighters should definitely work the body more than a lot of them do. So anyway, some of the things we're going to be talking about with Dax Khan and Alex Papali is the end of year. I had asked a lot of you guys to send us your end of year stuff, whether you had a chance. This year's holiday came so fast to me. I remember complaining around Halloween why they were already advertising Christmas. And I'm like, Christmas, man, everybody's doing Christmas so early. All of a sudden, the other day I realized Christmas is not that far away. It's less than 2 weeks away. It's actually a week from Tuesday. So, it's pretty, came on pretty quick. And ultimately this whole year flew by pretty quickly. But Dax came up with a pretty good idea for us to talk about what our thoughts were for the end of year. Three main things. They give awards for everything now, but I'm looking at three main things. One, the promoter of the year, the event of the year, and the fighter of the year. So my first thought when we get to the promoter of the year, I don't think that this is I don't think that this is any kind of a hard one. Eddie Hearn clearly gets my fighter of the year award this year. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he should get this, and the reason is because of what he's done for the sport. I mean, this is a guy that has brought some interest back, and he's very successful with everything that he seems to be doing. To me, it's a no-brainer with Anthony Josh. I mean, with Eddie Hearn. I think Eddie Hearn definitely wins the Promoter of the Year award for me. Now, the other one, that he wanted us to do, which was the event of the year. That one, that could be a toss-up for me, in my opinion, anyway. First and foremost, I think that you have to give credit to the last heavyweight fight we watched, and that was, of course, Tyson Fury against I can't even remember his name anymore, against Deontay Wilder. And, I think that fight was clearly one of the events of the year. And I think that the other fight that you could think of that was a fight of the year was Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that. But here's why I think that both those fights could be a tie for event of the year. First and foremost, Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker was a unification fight in the heavyweight division. And there was a lot of interest in that fight, and I thought it was a good fight. Anthony Joshua came out on top, and he kind of unified all the belts except for one. And I think that fight gave us a definitive heavyweight champion. When we mention heavyweight champion, we can think of Anthony Joshua. So I think that fight ties the fight with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Now, you could also make an argument for Deontay against his Luis Ortiz fight, because that kind of put Deontay Wilder, at least in my mind, on the map for in the heavyweight division. even though he was there and he was already a champion, I think it was a definitive fight for him to show that he could, win against a real opponent. So, in my opinion, the event of the year is tied between Wilder Fury and Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. You could make an argument for Canelo and Triple G, but there was so much drama around it, and the fact that it came a year late, and it wasn't exciting. It was a kind of fight that we all wanted to see, but it wasn't exciting. I thought that both Deontay Wilder against Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker were exciting. Now, the fighter of the year, I hear all these people telling me, oh, Canelo. I hear other people saying Vasily Lomachenko. But my fighter of the year is Tyson Fury. And the reason why I say Tyson Fury is because Tyson Fury, first of all, came back from, almost a 3-year layoff. And a lot of people, he came back. It seemed like a circus. It seemed like a WWE move. And he fought a guy he was kissing in the ring and everything else. Comes back. He fights the second fight of the year against a better opponent, but no world beater. He looked better. And then he comes back and fights Deontay Wilder. And I know a lot of people, including myself, thought he was nuts, did not think he was in shape to do it. Come to find out, he was in probably the best shape of his career, and he put on a show. He has brought back, not that there wasn't interest in the heavyweight division, because there certainly was, but in my opinion, he has brought back a lot of excitement in the heavyweight division. Now we don't have just one fight to really clamor for, and that's, of course, AJ against Wilder. We have several fights. Tyson Fury against AJ, Fury against Wilder 2, Wilder against AJ. You sprinkle Dillian White in there with Tyson Fury. I mean, there's so many. Luis Ortiz is still in the mix. Joseph Parker is showing he's in the mix. The heavyweight division right now is very hot, and a lot of it has to do with the resurgence of Tyson Fury. So for homework that I got from Dax, who's going to be coming on here in a minute, my end-of-year award, Promoter of the Year, clearly goes to Eddie Hearn. The Event of the Year, I have it tied. If I had to pick one, I'd lean towards Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, but I believe for the significance of the sport and the division, the heavyweight division, which drives the sport, I think my Event of the Year was a tie between Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker. And the Fighter of the Year, in my opinion, goes to Tyson Fury. So, hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, we're going to have Dax Khan join us, and we'll get his thoughts on the Canelo fight, if he can come up with any more than I had. And then we'll get his thoughts on his end-of-year stuff and all of that jazz. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
We save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now and get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Listen. Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you! I hate you!
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C Show. Glad you could view this. And we're also back. You know, we usually put a simulcast up on our Facebook Live page, and something happened to it. It kind of disappeared on its own, but she's back. But speaking about who's back, joining me right now is my man Dax Khan. Good morning, Dax.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, thank you. How you doing?
I'm cold. It's cold. It's raining.
You know what the funny thing is? It's not even as cold as it's been, but it does feel colder than it really is by temperature. I hear you. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about and squeeze it into a little bit of time here. But first and foremost, Canelo Alvarez destroys Rocky Fielding. You know, Dax, I tried to find things to talk about that fight, but it's very hard. It was a very lopsided fight like that whole card was. What was your assessment of Canelo winning the regular WBA title? Which I think is funny.
Well, first, what should be acknowledged is that DAZN and Eddie Hearn have officially, if they didn't think they did last month, they now have officially invaded the U.S. There was a packed house at Madison Square Garden last night. You had celebrities, you had former great fighters, Sugar Ray Leonard, Anthony Joshua on the microphone. You had Danny Jacobs in the house, Bruce Willis, Rosie Perez. The house was full. It looked very much like the Madison Square Garden of old. So, you know, that's great. That's great for boxing, and it just means that 2019 is going to be even a bigger year because 2018 has really ended with, you know, on such a high note. As for the Rocky Fielding Canelo Alvarez fight, you're right. There's not much to say. It didn't start out well for Rocky. It didn't end well for Rocky. It was all Canelo, and Rocky never got going. So, you know, it was a great performance for Canelo. You can't take anything away from him. Rocky Fielding was just outclassed. He did win his belt off a very weak champion. So, you know, the future of Canelo is now what to really discuss and what's he going to do next. Recently, they just said that his fight in May is not going to be with either Danny Jacobs nor is it going to be with Gennady Golovkin. Is he going to stay at 168 pounds or is he going to go down to 160 pounds? Is he going to fight a Charlo or is he going to say, or is he going to try and get that WBA super title and that Ring Magazine title and fight 168-pound king Mundo Smith?
You know, Dax, I see this guy trying to take the easiest path, which was not his initial, when he busted onto the scene, was not his initial path. And I don't know, in the middleweight division, we all agree that Triple G has aged. He's not the same fighter, although, you can make a case for him in his fights with Canelo. So the next guy that I would like to see Canelo fight at middleweight would, of course, be what's his name? You just mentioned. I'm losing my mind here. It's early.
Danny Jacobs.
That's the guy, and I would like to see. Thanks for jogging my memory like that. But, yeah, Danny Jacobs. And I think that would be a great fight. Two big middleweights. These guys are big middleweights, easily could be super middleweights. Why do you think he would avoid him?
I don't know. Danny Jacobs has proven to be more risk than reward several times. Remember, Danny Jacobs was that guy who was a regular WBA champion in the middleweight division that there was always a lot of questions on. Even you yourself had been very critical of Danny Jacobs over the years and his level of competition. Much of that had to do with Danny Jacobs' chin. It was always a question because of that knockout. Then Danny Jacobs goes into this string of knockout victories. He totally just destroys Peter Quillen in that battle for Brooklyn, so to speak, as it was billed. And he has gotten better since. He goes in there, and he's really the first guy to truly test Triple G. And, so Danny Jacobs, though, he doesn't bring in that big-time money like these other guys might. Now, staying at 168 pounds and fighting Callum Mundo Smith, who was also under contract with Matchroom Boxing, just as Rocky Fielding was, fighting on DAZN. Over in the UK, should Canelo decide he wants to branch out and become an international star and perform in front of an international audience, that would be huge. Canelo versus Callum Mundo Smith would sell out any place in England and easily draw in 90,000 fans at the live gate, and certainly draw in viewership, not only from DAZN and any other place that might happen to want to pick it up. That would be a mega fight. It truly would be, even if not here in the United States, if it took place over in the UK, because of how the UK fans are. That would definitely be the biggest fight for Canelo in the sport right now. But again, like you say, is he going to go that path? No matter what, Bill, understand, he has obligations to DAZN. DAZN their headquarters is based out of the UK, even though their parent company is based out of New York. Canelo has to fight those guys. If he should fight anybody not associated with DAZN, there's always going to be those boxing politics on whether or not anybody can make an agreement on which network to go on. There's going to, of course, be that constant argument about the money side. It's going to be very difficult and very messy. So Canelo right now has to, put up or shut up. But really, despite what Golden Boy Promotions thinks, they're not in control. Right now, Eddie Hearn and DAZN is in control on who Canelo fights next, because DAZN is not a little small Mexican promotion company that you're going to walk out on. They have the money to make sure you fulfill your obligations.
I'm not sure what the contract said with DAZN and Canelo, but from a couple of different sources that I've discussed with that very topic, was that yes, he's agreed and committed to fighting on DAZN. But I'm not so sure that they have much to say in terms of the opponent. I think that was one of the battles that Golden Boy won. But even so, even if he got to pick his opponents, I'm not so sure that it would be an easy fight against DAZN like you suggest. And it would be interesting to see what Rudy goes. Remember, this is a guy that said his first avoiding Triple G, if you recall, it was, he's a middleweight. I'm not a middleweight. I'm just a junior middleweight. Now he's fighting at super middleweight, and he looked very comfortable at it. And I think that he would actually help the division if he decided to stay in that division. But then, like you briefly alluded to earlier, then you would hear the rumblings of, well, he's avoiding another fight with Triple G, even though Oscar guaranteed that would be a third fight recently, and of course the Danny Jacobs fight. I think that fight right now might be the biggest fight in the middleweight division, because both fighters seemingly are at the in their primes, whereas Triple G, we could make a strong argument that he's clearly on a decline.
Well, in the end, Bill, just like HBO and just like Showtime, more or less, dictated on which fighters were going to be allowed onto that network, and they rejected fights. Same thing's going to happen with DAZN. They're not looking to go out there and have Canelo, after $350 million, go fight a bunch of cupcakes and showcase fights. They don't need that because they have a lot of guys that can go out there and do that and even bring in more viewers. People are, for some reason in this country, convinced that unless it's an American fighter, unless it's a PBC fighter, unless it's somebody managed by Al Heyman, unless it's a Golden Boy fighter, they're not huge draws. These guys over across seas are huge draws, and DAZN right now is going. They're trying to pick up where everybody else has left off, and they are not going to sit there and allow their network to go down the tubes from the start.
No, you're right, and I will say this: the fight card that was shown on DAZN last night was terrible. I mean, they were in terms of what you brought out in terms of positive. Yes, Madison Square Garden. Yes, big crowd. A lot of celebs. All of that. That was great. But the fight card itself was not what you would expect. And hopefully, we got to give them a pass on that because they have shown some good fights. Good fight cards from top to bottom. So we'll keep an eye on that. Tevin Farmer won a fight against Francisco Fonseca. I like Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer is the type of fighter that earned his position where he is now as a champion. I just wish more fighters, or I should rephrase that, more promoters and networks should let fighters like Tevin Farmer challenge for titles, because this guy, not only is he getting better, but several of his losses, you could say, were W's. What was your thoughts on that fight?
I think people predicted an easier fight for Tevin Farmer. I think people predicted a showcase fight. Tevin did win. But, considering Francisco Fonseca, his career has been built off of wins over, at best, C-level journeymen. Farmer, leading up to the fight, had talked a lot about stopping Fonseca, and a lot of that had to do with that, that promotion, that bad blood between him and Gervonta Davis. Remember, Gervonta Davis had stopped Fonseca in 8 rounds. Farmer promised to do it in 4 rounds. As soon as that fight went the distance, Gervonta Davis, of course, is jumping on Twitter, and he's mocking Tevin Farmer. So, Gervonta Davis, he has an upcoming fight with Abner Mares. Should he defeat Mares and, the fight with Tevin Farmer happen, that would be great for the division. I think Tevin Farmer might have overlooked Fonseca, went a little bit past, the task that was at hand, but he did get the win. It wasn't spectacular, but it's nice to see what happens next. And I agree with what you say. Guys like Tevin Farmer, those blue-collar guys, those guys that are willing to fight anybody, those guys are willing to always be the B-side, to come in there and win a title, should happen more often. Even if they lose it, the fact is they earn their way to it. They don't get their way promoted to it.
I'm with you. One last thing. Ryan Garcia improved to 17-0, beating Braulio Rodriguez last night. How do you assess his development? I mean, there was a lot of fanfare about him when he first came out. He was on ESPN early in his career. He did have a couple of tough fights, but he still shows a lot of promise, still shows room for growth. How's his development coming, in your opinion?
I like the kid. The kid's exciting. He has a lot of buzz going on around him. He's definitely a talented kid, and he's had a few tough fights, but he's also had some carefully guided fights, which, of course, at only 17 fights, that you'd expect that. Except what happens is they make the mistake with kids like Ryan Garcia is they make them into superstars in their own mind before they are actually superstars, while they're still just in that prospect and development stage. And I see that happening with Ryan Garcia. Last night, Braulio Rodriguez, that was, of course, a fight to make him look good and hopefully bring him to that next level, introduce him to that international level. Garcia doesn't really seem to shine at that next level, but he is still learning. He is definitely not, as they're already stating, ready for a Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, or Luke Campbell. In my opinion, what boxing needs to do, and a lot more of, and what should happen in the lightweight division, is try to decide which of these prospects is going to be the next one to step up and be in there with a Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, or Luke Campbell. And that fight would have to be Teofimo Lopez against Ryan Garcia next, and that tells who the real deal is and who the next superstar in that division might possibly be.
Wow, that's a good fight. That that's the kind of fight that they're going to make us wait for, Dax. And that's also the kind of fight that I don't mind waiting for. What I would like to see is similar. Not that I'm comparing them to Leonard and Hearns, but similar. I would like to see them fight and beat both of them. Other top fighters, have them both beat them and rise so that they're parallel, and then have a showdown. Because just like the late great Angelo Dundee once said, this is going to be a great fight someday. Let's give it some time. And look what happened. So I'm with you though. I love that fight. The only thing
problem is today, Bill. Now the time is the marinating. That marinating actually becomes beef jerky. It lasts too long and it loses its luster. And by the time these guys fight with all these titles around, and even if both have a title, it's not, each one has lost fans because half the fans are calling one the overrated, the other half are calling the other one, sensational. Somebody gets a loss in there. There's all kinds of sanctioning body mandatories involved. You lose interest. Let's see. The pecking order. We stress this. We need to make a top 10 pecking order, and the only way to do that is to make these guys fight each other and earn that top 10 spot and get rid of these sanctioning body ratings. And
No, you're right. I mean, I just went against my own rules by even suggesting that. The only reason is, it seems like these two fighters, Lopez and Garcia, are both legit. I mean, it's so hard to separate legitimacy from, frauds in today's boxing because of the level of opposition they're hand fed. But these two guys might be an exception to the rule, where you do see some talent, similar to the kid that was with all of the wrong promoters, who was an Olympic sensation. And again, his name is escaping me right now, so bail me out. What's the kid from Rhode Island? He just signed. Demetrius Andrade, yeah, him. He's another one. God, Dax, that's two, man. One more, and I'm gonna have to hang up on myself. But the thing is that that was a kid that was coddled under Star, and then he when he was tested, he came through. So I put those two in the same category. But I do agree with you, my man. I would love to see them sooner than later. All right, listen. You gave us a homework assignment. And I did it. I don't know if you heard my three, but I'm curious to hear. End of year awards, everybody does it. And there's so many now. The best beer salesman in a live event. I mean, a fighter, promoter, a trainer. But you picked the three most significant, and I applaud that. I picked in the first one, promoter of the year. I picked Eddie Hearn. I thought that was that's a layup. And if you lay on somebody other than Eddie Hearn, to me, I'm going to be shocked. I'm not going to think it's really you on there. But I'll go through the motions. Dax Khan, who is your promoter of the year?
Well, first of all, beer salesman of the year is Fat Artie Fucalero from down over at the Barclays Center. He gets the beer there on time. It's not always cold, but he's polite. Anyway, but no, of course, promoter of the year has to go to Eddie Hearn. For it to not go to Eddie Hearn, is absurd. Eddie Hearn is a no-brainer. Matchroom Boxing has done so much. This year alone, they promoted, the Kell Brook return against Michael Zafara, Shields and Hammer, Andrade against Kaltunuaka, Joshua versus Povetkin, Peter Biev versus Johnson, Usyk versus Bello. They were the lead promoter last night for the Canelo Fielding fight, and they're going to finish 2018 strong with White versus Derek Chisora. The rematch right now under contract signed with Matchroom Boxing is WBA Super Bantamweight Champion Daniel Roman, WBA Super Flyweight Champion Cal Yaffe, WBO Super Lightweight Champion Maurice Booker, IBF Middleweight Champion Danny Jacobs, IBF Super Featherweight Champion Tevin Farmer, IBF Light Heavyweight Champion Artur Beterbiev, WBO Middleweight Champion Demetrius Andrade, WBA WBC Diamond and Ring Magazine Super Middleweight Champion Callum Smith, who won that title in the World Boxing Super Series, IBF, WBA Lightweight Champion Katie Taylor, WBA, WBO, IBF, IBO, Ring Magazine Heavyweight Champion Anthony Joshua, and the same thing for the Unified Cruiserweight Champion Alexander Usyk, who's also a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, plus you add in Danny Jacobs. and those other guys that, in their initial fights under Eddie Hearn, not only do they get a world title shot, but they win a world title. So if you go with anybody but Eddie Hearn, it's just out of pure, the word I always hate to use that's thrown around so much today is haters. You may not like it because he's not a U.S.-based promoter, but the fact is Eddie Hearn is the boss of boxing right now. And if you think differently, then you don't know boxing like you think you do.
I couldn't have said it better. I don't think I could have said it just like you at all, because I would have had to breathe a couple of times in between. But anyway, this one it was a little tricky for me, and I'm probably way off base on these next two. But I'll get your thoughts. The event of the year. What was your event of the year, Dax?
My event of the year wasn't one fight. It was the World Boxing Super Series tournament. In my opinion, that has to be the event. Not only did it bring us a unified Ring Magazine Cruiserweight champion in Alexander Usyk, who turned out to be a pound-for-pound great, it also brought us Calamundo Smith, the man who emerged as the 168-pound king when he beat George Groves in the super middleweight finals. The WBSS drew international attention. It got a lot of subscribers to DAZN in the first place. They fought around the world. There were very few hitches going into that. Most importantly, the success actually encouraged more fighters from different countries to enter season 2 and more top names. Who knows what can happen if this thing continues to be a success, but right now the WBSS, in my opinion, Bill, has done more in 2018 than any other promoter has by itself in terms of bringing recognition worldwide, not in one country, not in one continent, but worldwide.
You're 100% correct. And now Richard Schaefer is part of that, isn't he?
Not this tournament, but he was for the first one, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I personally did 2 events. I did Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I thought that was a great event, and it was a great fight. And I know people are going to disagree with me, but I tied these two. I think the Anthony Joshua-Joseph Parker fight was the other one. And the reason why I picked it, not because it was exciting, not because, it was anything, compared to what you mentioned with the World Boxing Super Series, but I thought the significance behind us being able to crown a unified world heavyweight champion, even though Deontay Wilder has one of the belts, all the rest of the belts are owned by Anthony Joshua. And I thought that was significant. And that's why I made that a tie. And speaking of which, the fighter of the year, I picked Tyson Fury. I know Usyk was on everybody's lips. He's the front runner for most of the powers that be. But I thought Tyson Fury, fighting 3 fights, coming back from nearly a 3-year layoff, fighting a really big cupcake, then a medium-sized cupcake, and then Deontay Wilder, and for all intent purposes got robbed in that fight. I give him my fighter of the year. Who's your fighter of the year?
My fighter of the year is Alexander Usyk. I have to say Alexander Usyk because not only did he win that World Boxing Super Series, but he became the undisputed cruiserweight king, and he established himself as a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. He entered in there with the WBO cruiserweight title and a lot of questions over him. He had a record of 11-0 with 9 stoppages when he went in there. He goes in, he fights Marco Huck in September of 2017. He gets a 10th round stoppage, and then over the next 10 months, he beats Marius Briedis. He captures the WBC division belt. He beats Mira Gassiev. He adds the WBA and IBF titles to his Ring Magazine Cruiserweight title. Then last November, he goes in, he stops Tony Bello in 8 rounds with a sensational knockout. And Bello, who had been on a streak since 2013, had not lost, had 2 back-to-back KO wins over David Haye. Those guys that he beat since the start of the World Boxing Series, including Tony Bello, have a combined record of 119, 6-2 with 85 stoppages. Not to mention, Gassiev and Briedis were undefeated. If that doesn't get you Fight of the Year honors, I don't know what will.
No, hey, listen, I'm not opposed to Usyk. I just thought that Tyson Fury, Usyk, he's like this slow and steady. Talk about a blue-collar guy. He's a slow and steady, does nothing but win. What's your thoughts on the Usyk topic? What's your thoughts about a lot of rumor that he's going to move to heavyweight, for some of the big money? My thought is I wish he stays at cruiserweight because I think cruiserweight needs more worldwide recognition. What's your thoughts on the possibility of Alexander Usyk going to the heavyweight division?
First of all, the only place the cruiserweight division isn't popular is the United States. Around the rest of the world, it's hugely popular. And again, as I stress, the United States is not boxing anymore. If you look at the scene, Bill, the top names are not from the United States. There's that little handful and that small little circle of social media followers that sit there and think boxing is the United States. And that's why everybody's so mad about all these fighters not from the United States here performing in the United States and making all that big money. But, as far as Alexander Usyk going to heavyweight, he's the heavyweight of the old. He's Muhammad Ali type size heavyweight, or even the Mike Tyson sized heavyweight, between that 220-pound range where he fights comfortably. I think that, making that 200-pound or, just 199 pounds kind of taxes him a little bit. He's not a big puncher. He's a sensational mover. He has great footwork. Again, like you say, he's slow and steady. His defense isn't all that great at times, like Lomachenko. He shows he can be suspect if he becomes lazy and he becomes dull and bored in the fight. That's not taking away from his skills, but he's one of those guys that definitely fights up to his level of competition. His only choice, that, in my opinion, why he would go to heavyweight is for the big money fight, considering he is that WBO super champion. Yes, the WBO has one, and the WBO allows that champion, as I've said on the show before, an opportunity to decide if they want to fight the champion in division higher or division lower. They can jump in front of whatever mandatory is in that division at the time. So Alexander Usyk would be able to go in there and fight Anthony Joshua, make a big paycheck. Can't say he would win. Think size would, be his disadvantage, but it's possible, and I certainly can see him against a lot of the smaller heavyweights and coming out ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you about the cruiserweight division, and I guess I'm just trying to be selfish for the United States here and hope that Usyk sticks around so that some of these non-knowledgeable boxing people who call themselves boxing fans would actually start to realize that cruiserweight division is loaded with talent, and it's a shame. Yeah, and you're 100% right. Every other place in the world loves it.
We complain even at the time before the United States was invaded by all the top fighters from other countries. Everybody complained saying that any fighter who wasn't from the U.S. should not be considered the legitimate champion. Steve Cunningham, when he was in control of that division, had to go overseas. The United States didn't appreciate the cruiserweight division then, and you had a U.S., not only a U.S.-based fighter, but you had a Philly fighter as the head of that division. If that wasn't going to get that division recognition, I don't know whatever possibly could in the United States.
Dax, we got a lot of stuff going on for 2019, and although we're not going to be doing a live show now until 2019, the first Sunday in January, I think, is the 6th. But you and I have to get together because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about with some things we're bringing back and some new stuff. So enjoy your holidays, even though we'll be chatting before then and after. But appreciate all you do. And remember, everybody, check out Dax's column up on BillyCBoxing.com. The best to you and yours, my man.
And the best to everybody. Have a happy new year and see you in 2019.
Take care, Dax. That's Dax Khan. You can check him out up on BillyCBoxing.com, like I said. Before I take a break, I wanted to just read an email. I got a couple of emails I want to get out of the way, and this one's from Raheem, and a couple of these emails are still talking about the Fury Wilder fight. This one, Raheem says, "Good morning, Bill. I'd like to see how the heavyweight. I like how the heavyweights looking. Heavyweight division is looking. Wilder and Fury had a great fight, and I thought that Fury showed a lot of courage when he was knocked down twice. I had Wilder winning, but Fury showed me that he could take a punch and get up. That means Fury and Wilder can beat Joshua easy." But it's too bad Joshua won't fight either of these two because he's trying to avoid a loss. Now to my football question, how do you think the Bears are doing, and if the Bears are going to go to the Super Bowl. I like the Bears head coach, and it's the best defense in the NFL. I predict that my Bears will win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. The Bears beat the best teams, beat the best team in the Rams, and that shows the Bears are going all the way. Raheem, I appreciate the interaction from you. I really do. But sometimes you are just off the wall. I don't know if you just try to say things to get me going or but like Mike Tyson would say, a lot of your stuff is just ludicrous. It's ludicrous, Raheem. It's ludicrous. First and foremost, Anthony Joshua is not afraid of fighting anybody. Do your research, do your homework. Deontay Wilder and his team never, ever, ever had any intention of fighting Anthony Joshua. As it turns out, they made a mistake of fighting Tyson Fury. Now, despite either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder picking up a loss when and if their rematch is next, and oh, by the way, I would not be surprised if the next fight for Anthony Joshua is against one of those two guys. But regardless of if they win or lose, or AJ fights one of these guys with a loss, it's not going to matter. Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder is still a big fight. And let me tell you something, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury now, it could very well be the biggest fight worldwide. It'll clearly be the biggest fight the UK has ever seen, but it will be the biggest fight worldwide. So you're totally wrong. Anthony Joshua doesn't duck anybody. This is a guy that makes $20 million every time he steps into the ring. He sells out 90,000-seat arenas. He's a worldwide sports recognized individual. They got companies that are beating down his door trying to get involved with him and have his sponsorship. So that should tell you something. I know you're young and everything, but ask your pops. He seems to be the glue that holds you together. As far as your Bears, I love the Bears. I like the Bears. Going to the Super Bowl, I'm not so sure. I think they're going to get into playoffs, of course. Playoffs. But Super Bowl, that might be a little too much. NFC, to get by the Rams twice, that's going to be kind of hard. Winning the Super Bowl, you got some decent teams in the AFC. I don't know. I will admit I will be pulling for the Bears, but I certainly don't count. I wouldn't count on them winning the Super Bowl. They're going to get in the playoffs, so you're gonna have a playoff team for sure. But anyway, hey, listen, I'm over my break. I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have Alex Perpali. So don't go nowhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Have osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Addiction.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
The one, the only Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the number 1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And don't forget, we want you to be with us after the first of the year. Yeah, this is our last live show, but all of our radio affiliates will be playing some best ofs, and you can check out all of our stuff up on our YouTube channel. And the TV networks are also playing some best ofs for the holiday. So we will be back that first Sunday live after the new year, which I believe is January 6th. And then also keep an eye out for us on a new television network, Ginico USA TV. It's a platform that will have the Billy C. Show. It's going to be the Billy C. Boxing Channel, 24 hours, 7 days a week. We're going to be showing you live shows. We're going to be showing you other specials we've done over the last 15 years. We're real excited about it. You'll be able to tune into our channel on Roku and Fire TV, Google TV, Android TV, all of that stuff. So we're excited about that. Keep your eyes and ears and nose and all that stuff peeled for some press releases coming out about that over the next couple of weeks. Joining us right now, all the way from the humongous state of Connecticut, is my man, Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How are you?
I saw you laughing. You made me laugh. You thought that was kind of funny, huh?
Yes, it's the great prairie state of Connecticut.
First and foremost, we were trying to talk about Canelo Rocky Fielding fight. Not much to really talk about, but what was your thoughts on the fight?
It was a demolition. It was, in terms of an event, that's pretty much all it was. It was a big showcase. I think the biggest credit has to go to Fielding, because to me, he seemed, as you know, I got interested in this sport during the Mike Tyson era, and to me, he seemed as nervous and jittery as like a Bruce Seldon or a Michael Spinks. But
wait a minute. Nobody looked as scared. When Michael, I will never forget the look on Michael Spinks' face on that walk to the ring. It looked like they were leading him to either a firing squad with BBs or a live lion pit, because that image just is burned into my memory. So please, he didn't look that scared, did he?
I hear you. Fielding definitely had his whistling through the graveyard face because as scared as he might have been, he was holding it together well. And where I definitely give him major props is after that first body shot, I thought, oh, okay, well, this is over. He got up, and then, he was a little bit trembling, but he fought back and made it through that second round, which I didn't think he was going to be able to do, but he got up from another body shot. So he definitely came to at least go out on his shield, which you got to admire. But it was a grotesque mismatch. It was purely to get Canelo another title. And
that's what I think is wrong with the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that sense, as much as I am enjoying DAZN, they're just like everybody else in the sense that they're selling you a product because of the way they really gave you the hard sell last night. At times, they came out and said, like Chris Mannix, I thought was pretty good in terms of, being honest about what we were going to see. But aside from the Tevin Farmer fight, which a lot of people on social media, well, at least a couple of places I saw, people were knocking the fight, and the crowd seemed to be sitting on their hands. But I kind of enjoyed that fight. I thought it was pretty entertaining. It wasn't a barn burner, but I thought it was an interesting fight. But again, the whole card was pretty lopsided. I enjoyed watching Katie Taylor. How could you not? She is really exciting and is a breath of fresh air for the sport. She's just so positive and just a good sport. At least so far. Who knows what we'll see in the future? I don't know. I love the Gore Vidal quote. I'm never surprised by bad behavior. That's something we need to keep in mind in this world. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it was interesting because, people came out. And I tell you, the other thing that was interesting was that, Wilder Fury, as much as that was, to me, a much more interesting event, wasn't a sellout. Last night was. So it does show you that Canelo is sort of the power broker in terms of putting asses in seats. And that's what this sport's about. You could also make, I don't buy it, but you could make an argument for him now for Fighter of the Year because he did win, at least on paper, against Golovkin, as much as some people have problems with that. And he in his next fight, in a pretty short layoff, considering that he's one of the top stars, he moves up and becomes a multi-division Mexican champ, which hasn't been done very often. So that's a pretty good resume. I don't think it gets him Fighter of the Year in a year where you have a guy like Usyk doing what he did, but I think for Canelo fans out there, I mean, there's people out there, Bill, who are saying he's pound for pound number one. I think the only way you have that in your mind is if Golovkin was firmly number one. Then I could see you saying, okay, well, Canelo gets it now. But I don't agree with that. All in all, though, it was a nice event.
Well, I agree with you about pound for pound. Pound for pound, in my opinion, is either or a tie between Lomachenko and Terence Crawford. I mean, those guys to me are pound for pound. Now, as far as Canelo goes, I love that he works the body. I said it earlier in the show. I love that about him. As far as the title, it's a joke to me that they might as well just let him buy the title because, and no disrespect to Rocky Fielding, it wasn't a competitive fight at all. Now, if he does, like Dax suggested, goes and fights, other top super middleweights, well, then you can give him some props. Right now, he got another belt. He's basically stroking his fan base to give him fights. And my thought on DAZN is what has happened is something that I said at the beginning of this year. What you see here is you see these promoters aligning themselves with streaming networks like it's a new invention, and like Top Rank, they're with ESPN Plus. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. They're with DAZN. So what you really have to do today is decide which service or services you're going to purchase based on the fighters that you like. Because now they're signing exclusive deals where they'll only be available on these networks. So, in a sense, yes, DAZN has been giving us a lot of boxing. I just hope that they're more competitive than the card we watched last night. And speaking of networks, what's your thoughts? I didn't ask this, but what's your thoughts on that lame-ass HBO exit from the sport of boxing? And everybody knows I was an advocate for women's boxing. Not so much anymore, but what a sad sack. I mean, totally going out of the sport with a whimper. I mean, and here I was the most supportive for HBO as anyone could be, and I'm just so disappointed in them. What's your thoughts, my man?
Wow. It was very difficult for me in a way because my brother and I, once we got, into a point where we both, were making enough money that we could have the luxury of getting to go to big fights, a lot. We went to quite a few HBO shows. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you could see, but I have a whole bunch of HBO posters of fights we went to. So when they played that montage at the end, that was just awesome. Because I can remember, all those fights. And, where I went, whether I went to someone's house to watch it, whether I had a party, whether we went there ringside. So, yeah, the tradition was amazing, but that last card was just pure caca. I love women's boxing. That's one of the things that over the last 10 or 15 years especially has given me a lot of just new appreciation for the sport because so many of the women toil in obscurity. And as it is, boxing's, a niche within a niche, as you like to say. And so many of the men toil in obscurity. Well, for the women, they even have a tougher slog because it's just not a popular sport. It's starting to get popular. HBO did themselves a disservice, and to me it was almost like they shot themselves in their foot. It was a good example of why they should be leaving the sport, in the fact that they had lit the fuse on a Cecilia Brækhus versus Kaylee Reese rematch because they had aired that earlier in the year. It wasn't tremendously competitive, but Reese dropped her, and she had never been down. And what did Reese do since then? Nothing but win and train her ass off. And so you'd think, well, HBO, give us a good female fight. You finally realize there's women's boxing after all these years. You go ahead and broadcast it. And then the best matchup you could make that you lit the fuse on is a rematch between Reese and Brækhus, and you decide to give Brækhus an easy fight against Lopes, who, granted, I mean, everybody who goes to the ring, deserves respect. But there's levels here, Billy C., whether we're talking about Alexandra Lopes or Rocky Fielding. Both people didn't belong in the ring with the people they were against. And yeah, it was, to me, in a way, that was a little microcosm of what went wrong with HBO, because this didn't happen overnight. HBO didn't start sucking last week. One of the things they kind of did that I think you could point to was allowing caca defenses. Some of Roy Jones's title defenses, as I think once they got firm stars, that would happen. And there were nights that they gave you lousy fights. It wasn't all Barrera versus Kennedy McKinney or, Kevin Kelly and Prince Nassim Hamed. They sort of, made it clear that they wanted out of the business for a while, that they weren't treating the sport the same way. They were in the star-making business rather than the fight-making business.
No, you're 100% correct. I mean, HBO was that network you fought to get on. You rose to the top to get a certain following to get on HBO. And if they were going to close their boxing broadcast out with a bang, maybe Christina Hammer against Clarissa Shields should have been more of a fight that they put on. But you're 100% correct. They put two fights that were less than entertaining and one-sided fights, which is the epitome of what seems to be taking place in the sport, which just makes me sick, But it's,
right, and I think that's just to to pick up on something you had said. The way that now you have to buy the platform that the fighter you like has signed with. That does seem kind of unfortunate if you're a fan of all boxing, because you do sort of have to math out, well, how many of these apps can I buy a month? How many can I afford? However, isn't that kind of what they've done in baseball for a long time? If you're a baseball fan and you were if you were the fan of the Twins, didn't you have to buy something to see the Twins? I know it's true about the Yankees, there's been huge battles between who was going to cover Yankee fights. I mean, Yankee games.
Yeah, I mean, they had their own networks and stuff. That's what you mean.
Right, exactly, right. So if you want to see them, you have to buy that channel. So I don't know. I mean, is that progress, or is that just the state of the game that's coming to boxing?
Well, I mean, HBO, they lost. It is. And I said this 2 or 3 years ago. I said, listen, what's going to happen, the future of watching and listening to sports is going to be, you're going to get a package and you're going to pay X amount of money a month and you're going to get to see your sport of choice, all the teams, all that. That's what it's evolving to. I still believe that that's the case. But where HBO really dropped the ball, and I think it goes deeper than people might realize, especially from the sports end. Now, if you're dealing with just movies and television shows and what have you, it won't be as noticeable. And I think that what's happened, and it seems to have happened in the past, it's happening. It happened with cable versus streaming and everything else. You have this, what they used to call the whiteheads. You have the older people that are running television networks right now, and they don't want to break what they're comfortable with, so they're not rolling with some of the changes. And I think what we've witnessed, and why Showtime caught up to HBO and then blew them in the dust, was that HBO understands that. They understand that you have to have multiple platforms. Showtime, you can watch online. You can get their stuff in multiple ways. HBO, not so much. Not the sports. They wanted to stay, like they were the tops, like everyone's going to come to them. And rather than go back and fix it, they quit. They quit like the bull base, which is exactly what Showtime did. And instead of coming back and hitting them back, they ran. And the bully was defeated. And they not only did they run away and abandon the sport, they went away like in such a whimper. I mean, it was embarrassing for HBO, considering the history of that channel and the sport of boxing, going all the way back to when they first aired. I think it Ali Foreman? I think might have been the first, under the HBO company. It wasn't called that then. But I'm pretty sure that might have been their first pay-per-view type of a fight. It was known as closed circuit back then. But, and the history of all the great fights, the best fights were on HBO. I mean, it wasn't up until a couple of years ago and we were all saying, I was saying, oh, don't worry, they got something up their sleeve. Oh, they're coming back. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They did nothing. Good riddance to them, because anybody that goes out like that, Alex, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing about it is it was time, and I think that in in their final incarnation, they won't be missed. When you miss HBO, you're missing the HBO of the 90s, the HBO of, Vargas versus Trinidad, the HBO of Barrera Morales, that HBO. And that HBO has been gone for a while. It's unfortunate, but, times change. And I don't know. One thing that... I don't know. I think that DAZN is decent. I'm not ready to anoint it as, the best there is.
As DAZN?
As
DAZN. You're not going to anoint it as the channel?
As the best.
Yeah.
I do like saying dun da dun DAZN.
How about the commercials with Buffer
I haven't seen the commercial. Yeah. I heard it's terrible.
Well, Buffalo and Canelo, Michael Buffer and Canelo, but
I heard somebody making fun of it on Facebook. I got to check it out because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. But all right, let's get to the end of year awards. We picked 3 to do. There's so many of them. Both Dax and I, for promoter of the year, went with Eddie Hearn. I personally think it's a layup, but. What's your promoter of the year?
Yeah, I think promoter of the year, like you said, it is a layup. The World Boxing Super Series alone, as Dax mentioned, and you mentioned that it crowned a super champ, undisputed champion. I'm sorry I used that word. It crowned an undisputed champion in the cruiserweight division, which hadn't been done since 2006. So I think that's pretty awesome. And not only that, one of the best fighters in the sport emerged from it, Alexander Usyk. So I think, in a way, we could hit 2 birds with 1 stone right there because, yes, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing, both with what they did with the World Boxing Super Series, as well as being the driving force behind making just the sport bigger, both with mega events with Anthony Joshua in the Parker fight, which was a massive event in Cardiff, Wales, and then against Povetkin, which to me really solidified the fact that Joshua's the best of the 3 badass heavyweights we have right now. In my opinion, he's the best. Although Fury has a little asterisk next to him because boxing is when they compare boxing to music, they always compare it to jazz because boxing's is about styles. And in terms of the 3 heavyweight kings, it's Fury who has the most difficult style. So even though I think Joshua is the most talented, and I'm not the only one, because one of the funny things on Twitter last night is you could see all these jaded writers kind of fanboying it out by oh my God, Anthony Joshua's here. So everybody likes this guy. It's hard not to. He's a beast. So I think those events were mega events. That's why, to me,
So wait, you threw me off here. So you already jumped into my event of the year?
So yeah, in terms of event, I'm trying to do them all in one. In terms of event of the year, it would have to be a Matchroom event. It could be Usyk Bellew was a big one, and that was sort of a coming out party for Usyk because even though he got all the credentials for winning, unifying all the belts, he became more of a household name, at least across the pond, in his demolition of Bellew, which again, that showed how awesome he is because he basically just sort of waited and took him apart. And that he's definitely the fighter of the year. I do think that you could make the argument that Omaha also had an event of the year in Crawford Benavidez. That was a really packed house and a really high energy night. Who the hell would have thought that you'd have that in Omaha? So I think that the sport looks good in terms of events. I mean, Golovkin Canelo 2, like you said, I think some of the steam went out of that because we waited so long for it. However, that was one of the best fights of the year. I thought that was an awesome fight because you definitely saw the two best guys at middleweight really slugging it out. But yeah, I mean, in terms of event of the year, I guess I would go with, I don't know. For me, the best night of boxing, most entertaining, was Fury Wilder.
Right. And I mean, for me, I put, like I said, Eddie Hearn, and like I said 2 times earlier, and I'll say it a third time, my event of the year, I could go either way with either one of these two, but I'm making them a tie. I know that's lame, but then again, you did say super champion, so we're even there. You know,
right. I have the corner on lame.
Yeah, you got, you know, but my event of the year is split. My first is Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker. The reason, not because it was a nail bite or anything like that, but for the significance of the fight, Alex. This was, for all intent purposes, giving us a unified champion. Now, we still have one belt that's being held hostage by Deontay Wilder, but it is what it is. At least when you say heavyweight champion, the first guy's name that pops into your head is Anthony Joshua. That's why I think there was some enough significance for that fight to tie it with the fight you just mentioned, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. You know, regardless of what anyone thinks of these two guys, this was a great fight, not only for the fans to watch the fight itself, but for the sport. And then my fighter of the year, I did give it to Tyson Fury. I thought that Tyson Fury deserves it. I'm not taking anything away from Usyk. I'm not taking away from any of the other fighters that had great years. But to me, Tyson Fury, and you yourself said, you know, for the last couple of weeks, actually, you know, that Tyson Fury's biggest battle was the one that he fought outside the ring. And to overcome that and fight not one, not two, but 3 times this year, including where most of us feel he got robbed in his fight with Deontay Wilder, despite getting dropped, and that second drop looked like he friggin' was killed. I give him my Fighter of the Year award.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very possible that that might be round of the year, the 12th round of Fury versus Wilder, just because it was amazing. I mean, one of the things.
Yeah, but wait, you have to think of Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz for a possible round of the year too.
That's the other thing, is that if you think about it, see, for me, the only hesitation I have in giving Fury giving Fighter of the Year is he didn't win. Even though I thought he deserved the win, just like you did, he didn't win. Wilder had, if Fury didn't get up, Wilder could easily be Fighter of the Year.
Yes,
because he would have Ortiz and Fury on his resume. But no, I think, I give Fury major credit. And if you think about it, remember what Mike Tyson always says when you compare guys from today versus greats from the past, is fighters don't get worse, they get better. You could argue that the power punches that Wilder threw, that hit Fury with, those were 2 of the hardest punches ever thrown in the heavyweight division that Fury got up from. So yeah, that 12th round is pretty amazing. There were a lot of great fights this year, and in terms of heavyweight fights, one of the best brawls was Carlos Takam versus Derek Chisora. That was a great fight. Alex Saucedo versus Lenny Zapavinga was a great fight. The Battle of Miguel's, Miguel Burchelt versus Miguel Roman was a brawl. Did I mention Lomachenko versus Linares? That was a great fight.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
That was one of my favorites. Yeah, for me, the 2 guys I think I like the best this year, I like style. So for me, it's Lomachenko and Fury who are the guys that I liked the best in 2018.
There you go.
And as much as I am a big Anthony Joshua fanboy, I do have a man crush on him, I'll admit.
No,
I'm not the only.
Not more than me. I mean, but Lomachenko, you're right. You know, and
the Lomachenko stoppage of Linares was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think it's something like 13 head punches that he just is like, here, think about this, and then boom, I'm going to get you with that.
Yep.
and then he puts him out with the body shot. It was amazing. And, I mean, he's just beautiful to watch.
And don't forget TC, Terrence Crawford too.
True.
You know, and you know, the whole thing. It's you know, and Canelo, as much as they were talking about him last night as being so great, pound for pound, number one, Canelo's not in my discussion for any event this year, and it's not just because I lost all the respect for him with that whole steroid thing and the way he handled it, but you know, he just was not. The only competitive fight he was in was with Triple G, and they robbed us of that fight, and they're going to rob us even more by waiting another year for the third one. So it's a joke. Hey, Alex,
so I tell you, I'd have no problem seeing Canelo versus Danny Jacobs. I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know, the other guy that we didn't mention that we should, two guys, the little guys, Inoue and Sorang Visai, they both had big years. Inoue, you could still argue, is one of the top guys in the sport, pound for pound, but he's so tiny, you know, people don't look at the bantamweights and the flyweights as much. But he's unbelievable. He beats everybody, and he takes them out quick. So, yeah, I mean, the sport is in really good shape. I mean, you know who also had a really good year, and he only fought once, is Sean Porter. That was a great night. I really felt good for him, seeing him beat Danny Garcia.
Oh, yeah. You know, Inoue is the prime example of why they made pound for pound. And this is why I don't include heavyweights. Because if you take Inoue and you say, okay, you know, he's a little guy, this and that, but let's assume you bring him with the same skill set and everything he has and start adding weight to him. You know, make him a middleweight.
Scary, yeah.
Make him a middleweight with the same attributes, right? Make him a light heavyweight. Make him a heavyweight. Now, all of a sudden, you can put it in perspective what pound for pound means. When you're going the other way and you take a big, giant heavyweight, and you could pick any one of the top three, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, whatever, and you shrink them down to you know, a lower weight class, you know, flyweight, featherweight, whatever, welterweight, and you start giving them their same attributes, well, all of a sudden they're not as destructive in those weight classes because they're not going to have the size advantage. Those three guys that are active today are much bigger than most heavyweights, aside from themselves, you know, comparing against each other. That's their biggest asset. Now, of course, you could say, well, Wilder's got the power and et cetera, but, you know, when you see these little guys and you let them maintain what they display at the smaller weights as a heavyweight, well, now you got some scary guys like Inoue. I couldn't imagine him being as I would love to see a guy like him as a heavyweight, as quick as he is, and as powerful and as destructive. And oh God, that's quite the thing. Listen, I appreciate you joining us, and I just want to announce that we will be bringing back the Blast from the Past starting in 2019. We got a lot of changes happening that you guys are all going to love, and I'm really excited about the new television deal we closed. And I'm looking forward to that. So, Alex, we're going to have a great year coming up. I can't believe this one's over already, but I wish you and your family a happy holiday season, brother.
Thank you very much, Billy C. Likewise, I wish you the very best this holiday season, and I'm looking forward to bigger and better things in 2019.
All right, my man. That's Alex Papali. We appreciate everything he does for us, and yeah, everybody's been asking me, what's the Blast from the Past? The Trail of Tears for the Blast of the Past. When's it coming back? When's it coming back? And it's coming back. Don't worry. It'll be back for 2019. Listen, I got a couple of emails I want to read. This one is another Fury Wilder comment. This is from my man Stuart out of the UK. He says, hope you guys enjoyed the fight. Another one for the ages and a great advertisement for our sport. I'm guessing by now that most people have argued the result to death, but as we have heard many times, it is what it is, and it's not going to change. I was mightily impressed with how Fury conducted himself afterwards, and that would have been a major disappointment. For me, he took it clearly, but then it's subjective, and I could see how many people can make a case for the draw. He's saying, just saying. I agree with you, Stuart. I thought Wilder did not win that fight. I don't think it was even a draw. I think Fury won the fight despite the 2 knockdowns. He says, what did we learn? Well, Fury's back and clearly a major player. I can't see a rematch taking place next, however, and I have a sneaky feeling it's going to be against Joshua at Wembley in April. I'm not so sure I disagree with you, Stuart. I think Deontay Wilder, although I don't think he's the smartest person on this planet, as a matter of fact, I feel bad for him. I feel that his team has taken mighty advantage of him, and I think that at this point they have to realize that they better take this fight sooner than later if they're expecting Deontay to walk away with 20 or 30 million. The best way he could do that is to fight Anthony Joshua. Not to say that if he decided to go fight Tyson Fury in England, that it wouldn't get as much money. But for all 3 of these guys, in my opinion, Anthony Joshua against Wilder, and then the winner of that fight against Tyson Fury is going to make all 3 of them very wealthy. He says, why do I think it's going to happen? Because Wilder is on borrowed time, and I think he now realizes that with so much money at stake, both men will feel that by taking the other opponents will provide a big risk, derailing their matchup. I agree. He says, we now know without a doubt that Wilder is one-dimensional and surprisingly has shown himself to be a poor finisher at the top level. If Joshua had Fury down as Wilder did, he would have drawn the curtains on Fury in the 12th. There was no guile from Wilder, no thought, just wild swings and no patience. You know, I think that he really thought that just the knockdown iced it for him. And like I said, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He says, that said, Fury was everything he said he would be. Cunning, smart, and I liked how he didn't overcommit. And to be fair to Wilder, he also did what he said he was going to do and land bombs. And in parentheses, he put a couple or maybe 3. However, I said to somebody the other day, he landed 2 solid punches in that whole fight. Wilder did. That's it, 2. And they dropped Tyson Fury both times. He said, and to be fair to Wilder, he did what he was expected to do. However, he didn't count on Fury being able to get back to his feet. Fury showed some heart. Joshua is the undisputed by the end of 2019, will be the undisputed at the end of 19, leading to a domestic showdown with Fury. He says, an intriguing matchup, Fury versus Usyk. What's your thoughts? I think Fury's too big. I think you should stay in the cruiserweight division and make it as popular as it should be. He says, keep up the good work, guys. Boxing's alive and well. Thank you, Stuart. We got another email here. This is the last one I need to catch up on. This is from my man James. He says, this is about the HBO card. He says, I got to say, HBO's final broadcasting was a complete snooze fest. The 2 fights were such lopsided blowouts that I turned it off before the 3rd fight. Roy Jones Jr. was spouting some nonsense about 2-minute rounds, making women's boxing more exciting than 3-minute rounds. That whole thing was a joke. Thing is, it didn't have to be. HBO was the first premium channel to air boxing, the first to offer pay-per-view, etc. With a history like that, they could have chosen to go out with a great card. Instead, they phoned it in by slapping any old card together and getting the hell out of Dodge. What a waste. Do you think Showtime will follow suit and hang it up too? No, I don't. Thanks, James. I don't think they will. I think that they've rolled with the changes, and they're going to still be a major player in boxing. They've already announced several shows for 2019. Don't be surprised if they insert some more. I also think that we're going to see Showtime have more of a presence on streaming platforms. So we'll see that. It is a shame what HBO did. Like I used the analogy earlier, it was like the bully on the playground. You finally punch him in the face, and they ran home to mommy, and that's what HBO did. Thanks for the emails. One other thing I wanted to mention, the International Boxing Hall of Fame announced their 2019 class. Some of these guys that got on long deserved. The first and foremost, Donald Curry. I thought Donald Curry should have been in years ago. And I'm finally glad that he got in. James Buddy McGirt got in. Julian Jackson. Tony DeMarco. I know that A lot of people have been pulling for DeMarco, and he finally got in. I don't know what the wait was. I'm not happy with the scene. But, when I was looking at the comments from all these great fighters, I realized that of all of the living people that got inducted, and it was Donald Curry, Julian Jackson, James Buddy McGirt, Tony DeMarco, Don Elbaum, Guy Juderis, Lee Samuels, and Teddy Atlas. I know all these guys. Well, almost all of them. Buddy McGirt, I have him on my phone. Buddy McGirt and myself, we've crossed paths many times. I was really glad to see him. Tony DeMarco, I got the opportunity to meet him once. We did some interviews with him, so that was exciting to see him. Don Elbaum, longtime promoter and matchmaker. I worked with him on a couple of shows years ago, so I was glad to see him get in there. Lee Samuels, another guy that's involved in this sport as a publicist forever. Personally met him several times. Great guy, has helped me out a lot. Congratulations to him. And I'm going to throw Teddy Atlas in there. Teddy and I have met a couple of times. The first time in an elevator, actually. Another time I sat right next to him and had some dinner. Teddy's not. Teddy's Teddy. He thinks who he is, and sometimes I like that attitude, and sometimes I don't. But congratulations to all of the inductees: Donald Curry, Julian Jackson, Buddy McGirt, Tony DeMarco, Don Elbaum, Guy Juderis, Lee Samuels, Teddy Atlas. Congratulations on making it into the Hall of Fame. So just a reminder, if you're tuning in late, all of our radio affiliates and television networks will be continuing with the show. They will be doing some best-ofs for the holidays. We won't be back with a live show until Sunday, January 6th. We'll kick off our week. We are going to be back better than ever. We are on a new network. Keep your email inbox. Keep your eyes on your inbox and all the boxing sites. We'll get some press releases out, but that's kicking off in early January as well. We're going to have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week channel. Not only will you be getting our live events, but a lot of other stuff that we've done over the last 15 years. I'm putting together, I've talked about it many times on this show, about all the interviews that I've done over the last 15 years with fighters that were young and now are world champions. Danny Garcia is one that comes to mind. Guillermo Rigondeaux when he first swam over here. There's just so many. There's just so many fighters that we interviewed early in their careers, managers, trainers that have blossomed in this sport. Like I said, 15 years worth I'm going to put together, and we'll have on that show some stuff that we've done, some specials, some post-fight shows, some pre-fight shows. All of that will be on this network. And we are looking for other shows. If you have a show, or if you want to have a show and you want to put it on our channel, drop me an email, because now's the time. I've been getting audition videos for several years now, and we started doing it one other time, and we had a couple of shows on there that were more on the radio side. But now, if you put together, have a show that you want to be part of our network, drop me an email. I'll give you the guidelines. It's Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. So, hey, listen, I know this year we had some ups and downs. We got everything resolved, and we have decided the direction to go. I told you guys we would be making that decision, and that decision is we will be back in 2019 better than ever, And we hope you guys continue to watch or listen or play us on demand or subscribe to our podcast, all those things. We're available. For the latest and most updated boxing news, don't forget to visit our website, www.billycboxing.com. And I want to wish everybody out there a happy holiday season and a great prosperity for the new year. And make sure you tune in the first Sunday in 2019. I believe it's January 6th, if it's give or take a day. But make sure you tune in. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.